Pistachio Craze for the Holidays by Craze. Chapter 1. Nothing ruins a good mood like the hypnotic lull of your ex-boyfriend's world-famous voice. Especially when you recognize that distinct Aussie accent over the Christmas song you were singing along with. Someone in the studio is watching Channel Foodie's Culinary King, and I know exactly who that someone is. My work bestie and shameless traitor, Nellie. I clench my jaw and chop the cilantro with fresh aggression. Nellie, I'm turning it down. Nellie hollers, I'm turning it down. She's seated in the studio living room, which sits just off the kitchen, where I film my live cooking segments. I shake my head and finish chopping the herbs. It hasn't even been a year since the breakup. Can't you at least wait and drool over him when I'm not around? Nellie hurries into the kitchen. I thought the volume was low enough, so kill me. I scrape the chopped greens into the bowl with the gleaming knife blade. Don't tempt me. Honestly, I have bat ears where Jude's voice is concerned. I could recognize that husky tone, rich with that knee-weakening accent anywhere. Mr. Bruce strides in wearing one of his holiday sweater vests with a matching bow tie. Hey, Ginger, would you mind meeting me in my office? My stomach threatens to bounce into the blender. Sure, I squeak. I'll be right there. Nellie gasps and follows me to the sink. I bet it's about the position. You better get it over Bratty Patty. That bleep can't even cook. I ignore the bleep thing. Nellie's doing a don't swear December challenge. I dry my hands and release a shaky breath. I'm more qualified than Patty. Everyone at the station knows it. But since Patty has a corporate daddy, she's got the advantage. Wish me luck, I say as I hurry toward the hall. Good luck. Wait, Nellie adds. I stop and glance back, hoping she'll calm my nerves. She cups her mouth. Ask if the elves spun today's sweater from mystical thread. I roll my eyes. Stop it. I take the corridor, recalling the way Jude used to encourage me before an audition. You've got this, Lady G. Make 'em melt. The accompanying image that floats to mind is highbroil hot. Those deep brown eyes, that glint of mischief, the trademark quirk of his lip, present in every gif or meme that features him. Who's ready to get saucy? He's mastered an expression that makes him look like he's got a secret you'd do anything to uncover. Bruce Nancy, who prefers Mr. Bruce over the alternative, is at his desk when I walk in. His sweaters habitually feature cats. Today's holiday theme is his favorite breed. Hairless felines with sunken faces, pointy ears, and freakish eyes. Tiny elf hats rest wobbly on their shriveled heads. I shiver. You're outdoing yourself with a matching bow tie. He grins. Looks like my little Jinxie, doesn't it? Yep. I hope my expression reads admiring more than repulsed. I don't know what all the fuss is about with the hairless cat craze. It's like someone took a stuffed animal, shaved off the fuzz, sucked the life out of it with a vacuum hose, then shoved pipe cleaners into its limbs. Mr. Bruce sniffs. Is that cilantro I smell? It is. Low-carb quesadillas with pot roast. I made a double batch. I can't wait. There's no turmeric in them, is there? I shake my head. On Halloween, I added turmeric to my ghost chili, and Mr. Bruce sampled some before the live segment. His face swelled so badly he barely looked human. No turmeric, I say. I know now to warn you. Atta girl. He inspects the papers on his desk. Now, about the get cookin' position with Channel Foodie. My stomach plummets. Please say I'm still in the running. They've narrowed it down to 2 candidates. And you're one of them. That's great. My adrenaline spikes, half excitement, half desperation. Is it? I start to say. Mr. Bruce nods gravely. Yes, the other candidate is Patty. Her name is like a curse word around here. Ugh. I throw my head back like a teenager asked to clean her room, which is filled with a month's worth of cereal bowls, half a dozen softball uniforms, and an indecent amount of ranch-flavored corn nut wrappers. Hypothetically speaking, the network is at a deadlock, he says. Producer Marsha Langston has assigned a test audience to help make the final call. A test audience, I can't hide my grin. If it's up to Marsha and her team, Patty's daddy won't have any influence. Mr. Bruce stares fondly at the screen. I follow his gaze to the monitor, which plays a slideshow of photos. Is that Mardi Gras? I ask, eyeing the busy street crowd and beads draped over both Mr. Bruce and his cat. Yes, that was 2019. The cat looks sloshed. I look at Mr. Bruce accusingly. Did you give Jinxie a little drinkski? He holds his finger and thumb so they're all but touching. Maybe just a pinch-ski. Anywho, since you and Patty both have holiday cookie features in the next week, those segments will count as your final auditions. My shoulders lift like dough in the sunlight. I have more experience than Patty. I host the local cooking segments 5 days a week. Patty has one measly Saturday morning slot. Still, there's no telling how far the influence of Patty's daddy goes. And of course, there's one more of a potential problem. No, I decide, it won't be a problem. I've grown out of it by now. I hope, please say I've outgrown it by now. You've outgrown your tendency to buckle under pressure, I presume? Mr. Bruce asks like he's reading my mind. His eyes lock on mine, and an audible gulp slinks down our throats in unison. He knows as well as I do that the problem is real. I botched the live audition for my current gig to an epic degree. The sudden downturn in Mr. Bruce's expression says he's thinking of it too. Picture ripping a bag of pasta with your teeth, causing penne to scatter like pale tubes of confetti. Then picture hunching down to scoop it off the floor and smacking a pan handle with your head, a pan partially filled with sautéing marinara. Had I been wearing a raincoat suitable for a tour of Niagara Falls, we might not have had to cut to commercial. Sadly, most aprons still don't have hoods. While I changed, sopped the sauce from my hair, and slicked the marinara-scented strands into a bun, Jude soothed me from the other side of the door. Don't panic, love. People don't want perfection. They want people. Nellie blames Patty for the botched audition, saying she sabotaged things by removing the scissors from the set. Mr. Bruce, who'd been watching my YouTube channel for months, realized I had a case of the jitters. That wasn't exactly your best work, he said during my follow-up interview. But the audience loved you, and so the job was mine. After the segment, Jude pulled me in for a warm hug. My Lady G always makes an impression. Just try and let them forget that. I melt at the recollection. Jude is impenetrable, a trait that somehow rubbed off on me when we were together. He never catered to the naysayers, like his jock father, who cursed his only son's flair for food over football. And look at Jude now. Reliving moments with Jude threatens to ruin me every time. And while part of me wishes I could hit delete and make the memories vanish forever, I cling to them like they're life itself. I had that once, and it was beautiful. What holiday cookie are you making Tuesday? Mr. Bruce asks. I blink, refocus, and then fight back a spurt of panic as I realize I don't actually know. I have a few ideas. Maybe you and Nellie can come over after work, and I'll test them out on you? He frowns. I hate leaving Jinxie alone for much longer. My desperation spikes a notch, a frantic clawing in my chest like I swallowed Jinxie whole. Please, I plead. The fact is, I can already feel myself sliding into panic mode. This audition is an ice-covered hill. The prize is glistening brightly on top. My demise is a pool of sludge below, and I've got nothing but ballet slippers to trek the hill. You can bring Jinxie if you need to, I say. Mr. Bruce grins. You've got yourself a deal. Chapter 2. Patty, who has an affinity for polka dot dresses, sashays down the hall as soon as I step out of Mr. Bruce's office. I stifle a groan. I don't have enough energy to climb an ice hill, prepare for my live segment, and combat Patty's petty prattle about how she's going to get the job instead of me. Congrats on being my future runner-up for Get Cookin', she says, then laughs so hard she snorts. Today's dress is green with white dots, perfectly matching her manicure. You might have won last time, but I'll get you. I wait for her to call me her little pretty, because it seems appropriate here. We simply need a pointy hat and a broomstick to complete the scene. I guess we'll see, I say, spotting Nellie hurrying toward us. Hey, Patty, when's your next live segment, she asks, then does a facepalm. Oh, never mind, you're still after Saturday morning cartoons, right? Hearty har har, Patty says. Very funny. But soon, I'll be taking a prime spot with Channel Foodie, baby. Nellie brings a loose fist to her mouth and coughs her reply. Doubt it. What cookie are you featuring, I ask. If I know Patty, she has something sneaky up her sleeve. Patty wags a finger. Wouldn't you like to know? I have a little motto, go extra or go home. It's go big or go home, Nellie corrects. Patty pops out one hip. Well, I'm extra, I'm going big, and she's going home. She points a polka dot nail at me, nearly touching the tip of my nose. I go cross-eyed to stare at it, then take a step back. That doesn't make sense, Nellie snaps. I loop a hand around Nellie's arm and pull her with me as I walk. We've got to go. Good luck, Patty. Nellie pipes up over her shoulder. See you after Looney Tunes. Once we're to the kitchen, I grab Nellie's other arm and spin her so we're face to face. It's down to me and her. We're auditioning for the network's test audience. With which segment? Nellie asks. The holiday cookie. Patty's is tomorrow, and mine's on Tuesday. Nellie grins. She's going first, right? I have a few recipes in mind. Want to help me test them out? I'll hurry home after my segment and get started. Sure, but I'll have to be quick since I've got that date. It seems like she means to say more, but she stops short and grabs hold of my arm. What? I whisper shout, my heart thumping that distant doomsday beat. Nellie shakes her head. Nothing, you're gonna do great. Her cheeks flush pink, which only happens when she's lying, and Nellie, the queen of candid, almost never lies. Spit it out, I urge. Nellie glances about the set before pinning her blue eyes on mine. You suck under pressure. I choke out a laugh and yank my arm back. Thanks a lot. Don't act like you don't know. I do know, I assure her. I was just talking to Mr. Bruce about it. He's coming to test out the recipes, too. Nellie's face hardens. Good. We're gonna make darn tootin' sure you get this job over her. Thank you, I say, pulling her into a hug. You're the best. You know that? Of course I know, she says. Now hurry and get ready. I can't wait for those quesadillas. At the counter, I fetch another bunch of cilantro to chop during the segment. I think this no swearing thing is turning you sort of country, I mention. How do you mean? I shoot Nellie a look. Darn tootin'? It's a thing. Her face turns thoughtful. I wonder if Jude knows you're auditioning? My eyes bulge, because I can't believe she brought him up so casually. Nellie, I know you don't like talking about him, but let's face it. He's a great connection. He could put in a good word. Plus, you'll practically be working together if you get this job. I crack out a humorless laugh. We will not. I'll be shooting the segment down the hall. Jude never steps foot in this building. It's not rare for production companies to share studio space, but unlike What's Cookin', Jude's show is shot from his own penthouse in a second kitchen, identical to the main, built strictly for recording. It's gorgeous, of course, all marble and copper and warmth. I know just how it smells after he's baked my favorite dessert, pavlova, with freshly whipped cream and bright sliced kiwi. I can hear the instrumental theme song now, Regal Brass, since he is, after all, the culinary king. The opening scene features a balcony view of Virginia Beach's shimmering horizon before panning to the warmly lit kitchen where Jude glares at his fast-working fingers on the chopping board. He glances up, his chiseled face softening the slightest bit, and flashes a wink that makes hearts go weak and gooey with desire. I haven't watched Jude's show since the breakup, though it's impossible to avoid it altogether. Jude Sting is Virginia Beach's local celeb, which means it's not uncommon to walk into a small cafe and find his show playing. When Nellie drops the topic, I assume she knows it's best if I don't reach out. Inwardly, I wish she could have talked me into it. Chapter 3. I concoct 3 ginger cookie recipes incorporating trendy food items. I try Greek yogurt in one, avocados in another, and for the final batch, I try incorporating a vanilla protein drink into the dough. I feel myself working on autopilot. It's like that for me in the kitchen. I know ingredients, flavors, textures, and the properties that help or hinder a dish. I know which ingredients are best friends and which are mortal enemies. I even know how to make some enemies play nice with just the right balance or twist. But not today. For some reason, everything I know is absent, and I'm a bumbling beginner at a bake-off. Sure, I panic under pressure. I realize that's probably all this is, but my inner voice says I've lost the magic for good. It's the same voice that keeps replaying Nellie's suggestion that I reach out to Jude. I'm not considering it, but the mere idea makes my insides split wide open. I'm so desperate to piece myself back together that I don't have space for anything else. I sample the cookies before my company arrives. The one with Greek yogurt is a 6 out of 10. I'm not surprised. I bite into the avocado one next. The texture turned out all right, but the greenish-brown tint is less than appealing, and it needs something. My eyes go wide as I recognize exactly what it needs. I forgot the salt, I shout incredulously over the Christmas tunes. Huh! I might as well go back to my 8th grade foods class at this point. I bite into the last one, which is also the prettiest since I dunked half in dark chocolate before sprinkling crushed candy canes over the top. Sadly, it's the worst one yet. I shiver. 3 out of 10. I toss the cookie in the trash, and since I'm already talking to myself, make a random declaration that even I don't see coming. I'm checking his profile. A rush of adrenaline surges through me as I grab my phone, open the social media app, and type Jude Sting into the search bar. I'm not sure what's gotten into me. I've resisted this urge for 4.5 months. The last time I looked was on August 3rd, Jude's birthday. He'd been tagged by his mother in a trip to Sydney, a trip I'd been planning to go on too. I hesitate as I stare at the search bar, Do I really want to do this? I know I'll be stuck on cleanup duty. Desperately working to flush the new Jude details out of my head, I tap the arrow with my thumb and brace myself. Muscles tight, breath hitched, eyes half closed in case I don't like what I see. Crap! I hate what I see. The image is like eye acid that plunges straight to my heart. The top post is of Jude with Lisa Lynn, the owner of Organic Goods. I know Lisa. I like Lisa. At least I used to. Her face is squished against the side of Jude's stubbled jaw as they pose for the selfie. They're at a charity banquet. Lisa tagged him, which means she's the one who posted it. Nausea shudders through me. I plop the phone face down on the counter while jagged breaths heave from my chest. I deserved that, I decide. The music in the room fades. The corners of my vision blur. I can't believe he's dating already. Sure, it's been the better part of a year, but still. I figured he was hoping to reconcile like I was. Of course, with each day it feels less and less likely. Each month, it grows harder to consider sending him the text I always thought I would. One that owns up to my part of things while inviting him to fess up to his. I was going through Hades, as no swearing Nellie might say. Still, I'm the greater offender. I'm the one whose pride was too big to swallow. I should have reached out right away, or at least a day or two after it all went down. I meant to. A loud knock sounds, followed by Nellie's classic front door request. Let me in. Great. If I thought I was off balance before, it's a million times worse now. I let Nellie in, followed by Mr. Bruce, who doesn't come with his cat after all. Jinxie's getting measured for his new Christmas duds, he tells us. I escort them to the bar and wave toward the samples. Cookie 1, 2, and 3, I say without the slightest bit of fanfare. They look at each other, look at the cookies, and then drag one of each onto their plates. How you doing? Nellie asks me. Sometimes, faking a smile feels like crawling through death's door. Fine. Which one do you guys like best? This makes them look down at their plates again. I'm normally not such a terrible host, but in the spirit of Don't Swear December, let me say crap is going down in my life right now. I've been hurled into a state of panic that might rob me of my dream job, and I just found out that my beautiful Aussie ex is dating some stupid, dummy-faced, selfie at a banquet taker. Yeah, it's for charity, so stop tooting your own horn. Get over yourself, Lisa, you self-righteous twit. Oh, look at me with America's hottest chef. Look how cute we are together. Nellie raises a hand. What's with the face? The face, I ask, working to change mine. I'm not making a face. You're sort of making a face, Mr. Bruce says. There's no sort of about it, Nellie says. You're ticked off, Tiger. Tiger? Nellie rolls her eyes. Just tell us what's wrong. So I do. I tell them about the post and gripe about how annoying it is while fully aware that I have no legs to stand on because I'm the one who pushed Jude away. Nellie hugs me. Forget Jude. I'm sorry for bringing him up today. You don't need him to get this job. Agreed, Mr. Bruce says, eyeing the cookies on his plate. Nellie glances at her phone, which reminds me that she has a date tonight. Well, I say, nodding at the cookies. Let's hear what you guys think. They bite into the Greek yogurt one first. Interesting, Mr. Bruce says, smacking his lips. Nellie wordlessly abandons it after one bite and reaches for the avocado cookie. I don't bother telling them it's saltless. It would take the fun out of it. Her gaze darts about the room as she chews some more, then eventually swallows with a sharp punch to her chest. She reaches for the chocolate-dipped disaster at the end with ill-fated enthusiasm that fades as the cookie nears her lips. I stifle a laugh because I actually see fear in her eyes. At last, Nellie nibbles the chocolate-dipped side, shrugs, then takes a bigger bite beyond the glaze. Her lips curl, her face pinches, and she yanks a napkin off the counter in time to spit into it. Mr. Bruce quietly eases number 3 back on his plate without so much as a bite. Nellie looks up at me with wide eyes. You're doing it. You're panicking. This isn't you. You know how to make decent ginger snaps for crying in a bucket. I flinch back. For what? It's a thing, Mr. Bruce says. My shoulders drop. I am freaking out. I don't know what to do. You can't use any of these, Mr. Bruce says glumly. Can't you just tweak an already successful recipe? I roll my eyes. As far as ginger cookies go, that's basically what anyone's doing at this point. I know what it takes to make the best there is, but I want to make it my own. Right? Mr. Bruce looks at his watch. Jinxie's going to be done in a few minutes. I better get going too, Nellie says. The date, the new guy from the singles group. I confirm. She nods. Wish me luck. I walk them to the door, thank them for witnessing me at my worst, and spin in place to look at the kitchen. I grab the trash bin and dump every last cookie into it. Believe it or not, it's satisfying. I tell myself I'm turning a page. I got the panic out of my system. And now it's time to get back to business. A vision of Jude and Lisa pricks my mind like a venom-filled fang, setting fire to my insides with a pulsing, throbbing burn. I groan and decide I'll feel better if I take the trash out to the curb. I'll empty my mental trash at the same time, hit delete on the taunting picture so I can't torture myself with it anymore. I step into my Uggs, shuffle through the dusting of snow to my garbage bin, and toss the bag inside. Bye-bye, hot mess me. My shoulders are lighter as I walk back inside. There, I tell myself, you can still do this, and I can. I have an opportunity most people would give anything for. And whether Jude still loves me or not, whether he's deep in a relationship with what's-her-face, or they're mere acquaintances who hung out once at a charity event, it doesn't make or break me. I nod, believing it. The follow-up voice takes it a step further. Besides, it says, if you wanted a future with him, you should have done something about it when you had the chance. I pretend that doesn't sting and set a new bag in my trash bin. Yet just as I tuck it back beneath my sink, my phone lets out a buzz, probably a text from Nellie or Mr. Bruce. I know you're upset right now, I imagine it says, but I'd strongly advise you against eating any of those cookies. I hurry over to my phone, scan the notification, and see a name that makes me gasp like I've seen a ghost. Jude, I hear you've got one last audition for Get Cooking. Make 'em melt, Lady G. I know you can. Chapter 4. I don't speak. Don't breathe. Don't even blink, for fear the sight before